All right, so now let's dive into expectancy value theory and interest. So, what is the expectancy value theory? Expectancy value theory is a psychological theory that seeks to explain individuals' motivation and decision making process. For those who might not know, Jackie Eccles, she is a professor here at UCI and within the School of Education. She's a renowned professor, and she's actually one of the researchers who developed and popularized expectancy value theory. And so it posits that people's motivation to engage in a particular behavior is influenced by two key factors: their expectations of success, which is their expectancy, and then their subjective task values that they place on an outcome of the behavior. So, how much you value an activity will influence how willing you are to do that behavior. Expectancy meaning, if I imagine my sort of like self efficacy, if I imagine myself doing that thing and I think that I can be successful, I expect to be I would expect that I would be able to do that activity. And so let's dive into what expectancy means first. So, expectancy refers to an individual's belief about their ability to successfully perform a specific behavior or task. That's actually the same definition as self efficacy. And so we're seeing how this is related from what we learned, prior knowledge of what we learned in the past, and seeing how it's applied in a different context. So it reflects also their perception of how likely they are to achieve a desired outcome based on their skill levels, their knowledge, their past experiences, their prior knowledge, and the available of resources and support. So higher expectancy indicates a greater belief in one's ability to succeed, and which in turn increases their motivation. So expectancies are related to the ability and beliefs such as self-concept and self-efficacy, and prior success and failures, difficulties and available resources influences that expectancy. And then the other aspect is value. So, value represents the importance or desirability that an individual attaches to a specific outcome or consequence associated with a particular behavior. It encompasses both intrinsic value, the inherent enjoyment, and extrinsic value, the external rewards or benefits. So, we learned about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation here. Now we're seeing it applied with these subjective task values. And the higher the perceived value or the outcome, the more motivated individuals are to engage in a particular behavior. And so let's dive in a little bit deeper into these task values that we mentioned. So, task value refers to a subjective importance or worth that individuals attribute to a specific task or an activity. It is a key component in motivation, and it influences how engaged or committed a person might be in pursuing or completing a task. So, task value is a central concept in educational psychology and plays a significant role in student learning outcomes as well as achievement or academic achievement. And it's actually grouped into these four dimensions of intrinsic, attainment, utility, and cost. So let's take a look at what intrinsic value means. Intrinsic values, similar to intrinsic motivation, refers to the inherent enjoyment, interest, and satisfaction that and individuals derive from engaging in the task. So it's that self fulfillment, something that is internal, doing a task for the sake of doing it. When individuals find a task intrinsically valuable, they are motivated to engage in it simply because they enjoy doing it or find it personally fulfilling. So, for example, a student who loves reading may find intrinsic value in literature assignment, or a student who likes to work out finds going to the gym to be very, very enjoyable. He's not that individual is not necessarily working out so that he can stay fit for others, but he's feeling self-fulfilled by working out for him or herself. Another aspect of task value is attainment value. So attainment value is perceived as the perceived importance or of mastering or achieving success in a task. So this reflects individuals' beliefs that completing the task will lead to a specific or desired outcome, sort of a caliber or a mark or a baseline for that individual to reach, such as gaining knowledge, developing skills, or achieving specific goals. So when individuals see a task as having high attainment value, they are motivated to invest effort and persist in their efforts to succeed. For example, as a instructor, there are certain goals that I have that I want to reach. So attainment values that I have set for myself as an instructor. For example, I want to be able to deliver high quality online learning videos. I also want to include specific instructional design integrating education technology platforms such as embedded video questions, interactive slide decks. So these are specific goals or areas that I have set for myself that I perceive as important of mastering in order to achieve a specific task. Another is utility value. So, utility value refers to the perceived relevance and usefulness of a particular task in relation to one's own goals and interests. So when individuals see a task as having high utility value, they believe it to contribute to their own personal growth, future career prospects, and practical application of knowledge and skills. This perception of task relevance enhances motivation and engagement. So oftentimes you might, encounter a class in your college or undergraduate studies where you're like, how is that going to be related to what I learn, my career development, my own professional development? Like if you're some of the general education classes require you to take calculus or statistics, but you know that you want to be an English instructor or a teacher that has nothing to do with math, right? So sometimes there are this disconnect in terms of what you value and the task and the usefulness of the task itself. And so oftentimes as instructors, we try to find the utility value in the courses that we teach, applying kind of that real world application component to really help align what we're doing in the class to what you might do in the real world with your job prospects. And finding and creating opportunities for the usefulness, for the utility value is a goal that we instructors have so that you can really see that alignment and have it be useful in what you need for your undergraduate career. The last one is cost value. So cost value represents the perceived negative aspects or drawbacks associated with engaging in a task. And so it encompasses the effort, the time, the sacrifices that we have to make to complete a particular task. It encompasses all of these kinds of things that we might be giving up by participating in this. And when individuals perceive a high cost value, they may feel demotivated and less inclined to invest the necessary effort to complete this task. So minimizing perceived costs and maximizing task value can help sustain motivation. Oftentimes when we might encounter a task that we have to do, like, that's not worth it. That's us assessing the cost value of participating or engaging in that task. Right. And so we do this subconsciously all the time. These are just 4 dimensions that look at the certain types of subjective task values that we might place. But ultimately, these 4 dimensions are really critical in determining how students' motivations progress or decline and how they can be amplified or opportunities can be created to help students increase these kinds of expectancy and task values. So did you ever apply for an internship or a job that you really wanted? And let's think about, did you apply for that internship for yourself? Or was there some kind of external pressure from your parents or maybe from social norms? Or did you apply for that job because you inherently really wanted to do it? So, maybe you're a software engineer and you really want a programming job, and not just because you want the money that or the salary that comes with it, or not because you're trying to appease your parents, but maybe because you really loved programming, the art of programming, the creativity, solving puzzles, troubleshooting, trying to debug certain things. Maybe you have an inherent passion for it, or maybe you have these external pressures that are kind of pushing you to choose this particular career path. So that's what expectancy and task value is, kind of juggling the dichotomy between certain tasks, what is driving and motivating us to do this, and what is or what might not be. And so let's kind of summarize expectancy value with it, and with expectancy value knowing or acknowledging that individuals' motivations and decisions are influenced by subjective evaluations and personal goals. This is something that we're doing internally, whether we know it or not. Oftentimes, it requires some metacognitive thinking and reflection and monitoring for us to really be aware that we are inherently doing these things. People often weigh the potential outcomes and their subjective value against the effort, time, and other costs associated with engaging in a particular behavior. They may also consider personal interests, beliefs, and social norms when assessing the value. So these subjective task values of a behavior. And this theory has been widely applied in educational settings to understand student motivation and engagement. Educators can use expectancy value theory to enhance student motivation by fostering positive expectations of success and highlighting the value and relevance of the task or subjects they are learning. So, by promoting a sense of competence and emphasizing the significance of the learning outcomes, educators can increase student motivation and willingness to invest effort in their studies. So, I actually published a paper last year, or actually this year, on looking at undergraduate motivation, particularly while learning through Zoom. And so, specifically, we looked at aspects of expectancy theory and aspects of subjective task values and how it influences mind wandering as well as online engagement. So, mind wandering is, or colloquial term of zoning out, is like the state of being away from the here and now. And then engagement is defined as the kind of investment, the interactivity, how much you are actively paying attention in that course. And so what we found, interestingly enough, was that task value negatively predicted mind wandering, and mind wandering positively predicted negative engagement. So what we see here is that as students have higher levels of task value, so they have, remember those 4 dimensions of task value, right? They're assessing their intrinsic, their attainment, their utility, and their cost, right? And if students learning through Zoom have high task value where they find the course to be inherently important for them, they actually mind wander less. And because they are mind wandering less, where they're in the current state of here and now, paying attention, being focused, they also show higher levels of engagement. So you can see how other aspects, including self-efficacy, also showed a very similar trend. What we saw was that students who had higher levels of self-efficacy mind wandered less. And as a result of mind wandering less and having higher aspects of a higher self-efficacy, they also were more engaged in the online course. So if you're interested in learning about that paper, you can feel free to click here or click the link here and learn more about UCI students and undergraduates learning through Zoom during COVID.